Jenny, thank you so much for joining. I'm very excited. I'm feeling like, oh, everything is bubbling in me. So excited to have you here. And thank you everyone for joining. I'm very grateful to see all of you people. Welcome. Jenny, I want to share how I get around you, how I found you. I was in San Diego during my evacuation, during the fire evacuation. And then I saw someone is posting, oh, I'm in San Diego, it's so much fun. And then I saw that you are one of the people who talk about sexuality. And that's why I added you to my Instagram. And you happen to be in San Diego. And then later I saw that you're planning BDSM class. And I thought, wow, I want to talk to this person. So could you please share in several words about you?
Yes, thank you for the introduction. My name is Jenny Moore. I'm a sex and intimacy coach. I like to call myself on Instagram a holistic sex and intimacy coach because I think a lot of the times our environment or our childhood traumas or things we might be eating or ingesting or people that we might be around can affect how we feel in our bodies and in our minds. So I always like to just throw out there that I'm kind of a health freak. And I think it definitely can affect us in intimacy, different aspects of that. But I'm a somatica trained sex and relationship coach. I also specialize in BDSM, and I'm getting my neuro-linguistic programming certification right now for altered states of consciousness, which include meditation, exercise, and psychedelics and orgasm. So I like to have my like witchy stuff that I do in some of my retreats where I use different herbs that help people get to a lucid state where they can get into the unconscious mind and get into the belief systems. We'll get into that, I think, a little bit later. That's generally what I'm about. I love to just combine all these different things that I find really interesting to help people in their own journeys of creating the outcomes that they want in their lives, in their intimacy world, or just in any sort of relationship with themselves, with others, with coworkers. I feel like this stuff reaches far beyond just in the bedroom. And so I really like to get people the tools for them to feel resourced to create the outcomes that they want in their lives.
Oh my God, yeah. I feel like I want to sign up for all of those things you just listed. That's a fun stuff to work on. Wow, so exciting. Like the next question I have, just to start with understanding what is BDSM, because like I tried to post like a video on TikTok, and BDSM is not, it's like a forbidden, like you can't use it. Like, okay, so some people don't even know about it. Some people curious, but might have some shame because like you can't use it, right? So for people who tried and for beginners, how would you explain what is BDSM?
Yeah, well, first of all, I think it's so wild that BDSM is such a highly shamed and taboo topic because it can be so healing and so profound for people who were highly shamed growing up or for people who had a lot of, I'll just, for easefulness of describing it, narcissistic abuse. I could get into like that particular wounding later to de-shamify it a bit because I think in current culture, there's a lot of pointing fingers at people who are narcissists. And I think what we all need to acknowledge and recognize is that we all have a degree of narcissism within us. And so how can we understand ourselves at a greater level of when that's present for us and find ways to stay connected when we're feeling triggered there. But generally people who have had abuse with either a lot of shame or a lot of power dynamics from narcissism, they tend to find themselves in BDSM. And so I like to use the definition from my mentor, Midori. She's amazing. I adore her so much. I definitely recommend everybody goes and does some training with her or just follows her on Instagram, Planet Midori. She's amazing. But her definition is childhood joyous fun with adult sexual privileges and cool toys. So you're basically just playing and having a great time in a consensual, negotiated, collaborative consent container. And you just have the privilege of it being sexual since we're adults now, and you just have all these fun, cool toys that you can just like throw in there and play with and have a great time and just see how that unfolds. So what I really love about it is that it it opens up this spaciousness, especially for people who might have been partnered for a long time or married for a long time. It just opens up this whole container to be able to explore in a much deeper way, because there's all these different elements that you then can combine and in different scenarios just deepen things. So it's just very interesting and very novel. So that's something I love about BDSM. The actual description, BDSM, so it's bondage and discipline. So that would be like, let's see if I can find some.
Yeah, like what is it? What
Find
is bondage
something.
and discipline?
Yeah. So bondage would be something like, so like cuffs or ties, ropes. Discipline would be, you know, consensual, like made up thing of if someone's supposed to do a thing, um, and it's all made up, right? Which is childhood joy is fun. So it's like, oh, you're not allowed to say this word, and if they say that word, they get a spanking. You know, and maybe they wanted a spanking, so maybe they said that word on purpose. But generally, that's bondage discipline. Then there's dominant and submissive. So like, I'm in charge, I'm in dominance, so I'm the one that's creating the scene. On the other hand, I can also be in dominance but be receiving the sensation. So I can say, you're going to give me a massage and it's going to be really beautiful, and if you don't do it right for me, I'm going to slap you. So I can still receive
Ooh.
the sensation but be in charge. So dominant submission. So submission could be receiving the sensation, enjoying a nice flogging, enjoying whatever thing, or it could be the person that's giving the massage. And then there's sadism, masochism. So a sadist is someone who enjoys giving pain or intense sensation. In BDSM, it's not always about pain. In fact, a lot of times it's about like really interesting sensation, like playing with hot and cold, or you know, just playing with different tools. Like, for example, I'm a huge fan of knife play. And knife play is actually just feels like a little scratch. It doesn't hurt at all, but it has this extra intensity of like, oh my God, I might get cut. So it adds that anxiousness there. So for people whose sexuality might be wired in a way where they were really anxious growing up, maybe masturbating when their parents were home and they had to be really quiet, then there's this anxiousness that's wired in with their sexuality. So they might enjoy BDSM because it adds this element of anxiousness, like through knife play or other forms of play that can have some fear factor. So sadism and then masochism, people that enjoy the intense sensation. So they enjoy receiving the intense sensation. And so with all of these elements, there's this matrix that can emerge where you can come up with different scenarios and different scenes where you're playing with all these tools and toys in a way that's really deepening intimacy, deepening connection, and a really solid container. So you know exactly what to look and listen for to make sure that you're staying on track to pleasure instead of mismatched expectations and disappointment.
Yeah, and like through all of this, I see the red line, trust. There is like such a trust has to be there. That person next to me plays with knife, and I have to trust that, right?
Yeah, there is a huge level of trust. And I think there's many ways that people can build that trust, obviously, from knowing someone for a long time to having a really good negotiated container to how much presence does this person have? Because if someone isn't really present with a knife, then if they slip, they could cut you. And so I think it's important to just be able to discern like how much presence does this person embody, and do I trust them with these pokier, wackier tools with me? Because I think that's something that's really important in BDSM is cultivating a lot of presence. So trust is huge, and I think part of that is tied with presence.